Welcome back to another one of my videos. I wanted to take the time to talk to you again about item specifics and an update to my last video where I discussed how effective the 9th that sellers are going to be expected to update most, if not all, of their item specifics. I have an update on that, and I wanted to kind of talk to you about returns. So without any further ado, let's go. I hope everyone had an excellent Labor Day holiday weekend. Wanted to put out a video as an update to the video I put out on Saturday regarding item specifics. I do have more information on that. But before I get started, I need you all to do me a favor. Please hit that like button, like this video. Also, if you could please consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that notification bell icon. So getting back to the item specifics. The video that I put out on Saturday went over the fact that many sellers like myself received an email on the 3rd of September stating, along with a countdown, that we were going to have to update our item specifics for all of our categories by the 9th of September. And so that's on Wednesday. So I have an update to that, but just as a refresher, I won't go into the entire video that I did, but the email that I was sent, and many other sellers were sent, basically gave us a rundown of the various listings that needed to be fixed, and also a link to their optiseller tool third-party program that they're trying to push on eBay sellers. For those of you who are interested in actually watching that video, I would recommend, if you haven't seen it, watch that video first, come back to this one. The link is right here. I'll also put the link down below. So I contacted a rep yesterday regarding a different problem, a return. I'll talk to you about that a little bit later in this video. But during that phone call, I had asked about how some of you have not received the same message that I received, and I was quite curious how select sellers like myself were being singled out to update our item specifics and others have not. And so they reminded me of a situation last year about this time, I think it was in October, when certain sellers of clothing, maybe shoes, but mostly clothing, had a situation with item specifics, caused listings to disappear. I'm sure you clothing sellers certainly remember that. And that was sort of phase one of how they were trying to push out this whole idea of updating item specifics. And so that was select categories. Now, being that I was not selling clothing on eBay at that time, and I currently don't, I didn't receive really any communications about that. You know, you only hear about the catastrophe of everyone having to relist their items, and that was a nightmare in itself. But I was not affected by that, being that I wasn't selling items in that particular category. Fast forward to the email that I received on the 3rd of September, I was informed by the rep at eBay that only sellers who are selling in certain categories have received that email. So you clothing sellers, you shoe sellers, sellers of various different items may not have received that message because you were already dealt with last year, and that's why there is no focused email that was sent to you. So for sellers that are selling in these categories, you should have received this email that I referred to on the 3rd of September, and that is printers, scanners, and supplies. So, you know, it's self-explanatory. Your printers, your scanners, your multifunction printers, your printer supplies, paper, toner, that type of thing. Home improvement, that could be, you know, tools, household improvement items, things of that nature, you also should have received that email. TV, video, and home audio. So, again, that's self-explanatory. And I'm sure that if you sell accessories that fall within that category, you should have received that message as well. Kitchen, dining, and bar. So if you sell appliances, small appliances, things of that nature, that affects you. And the last category would be cell phone accessories. So anything that has to do with a cell phone, cases, chargers, you name it, that also would apply. So what does that exactly mean? Well, it means that if you sell items in any of those categories, even if it's just one item, your store will be flagged for item specifics, and there's going to be a focus on those items that you're selling in those categories. So when you either list an item in one of those categories, relist, or revise an item from one of those categories, you are going to be required to have those item specifics corrected. Now, this seems to me, and they wouldn't really elaborate any further, but it seems to me like they're doing this sort of like how managed payments are being handled, in that it's being done sort of in phases. So it would not surprise me at all that in a few months they may come out with other categories that they're trying to focus on item specifics. The good news is I haven't heard of anyone losing listings like they did last year, so that's a good thing. But this is sort of phase 2, and there may be more phases to this push. So don't be surprised if in a few months down the road you see a similar email to what I've described, where you have to sign in, verify your account, and then it goes through this whole process to tell you, hey, you have these listings. Most of them probably are already been sold, and you need to update these listings. And by the way, check out this new optiseller tool, and honestly, it's not really worth your time. And I'll say this again about what my thoughts were on optiseller. It seems like a third-party push to sign up sellers for a service that really isn't necessary when you consider that we are going to be required to put all the item specifics in a listing anyway before we're going to be able to list it. So it just doesn't make sense to have a tool, at least long term, beyond the trial period that they're giving sellers, and that's through the end of the year. It doesn't make sense to really utilize a tool that we're not going to need. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. Hopefully that gave some of you all clarification. Some of you looking through your messages, wondering why you did not receive the message. That should clear that part of it up. Last thing I want to talk to you today is about returns. I received a return request on Saturday, and I had sold a brand new PlayStation 4 game, and I sent that out to the customer. It was still sealed and everything was great, just to receive a return request on Saturday, and it stated that the game did not work. So I decided to take it upon myself to message the buyer, and I let them know this is brand new. There's no reason why the game should not work. And while I will take the return, that item will be inspected. If it looks like it's been used, and or if it works in my own test PlayStation that I have here, there will be a reduction in the refund that you are expecting to receive. So they replied back stating that there's no scratches on the disc. They don't know what's going on. They couldn't rule out there was a problem with their PlayStation. So I had asked them, can you check with a friend or neighbor who might have one, just to make sure that's not the case. And they told me that they would try, and that's the last I've heard from them. So my question that I had for the representative I was speaking on the phone with yesterday was in regards to that return. And that is, look, this buyer opened up what may be a incorrect return. Maybe I nipped it in the bud where they might do swap out, where they send me back the disc that they might have that's all scratched up for the brand new disc that I sent them. And or they may just decide now that there's a problem with their PlayStation and they don't send back the game. And in either case, if they were to cancel the return, or if they send the item back and there's a problem, or if they allow the return to just time out, what does that do to my account? And so they explained, if you do not, as a seller, provide a resolution, that will be counted against your account. But because that's not happening here, I am being proactive with this return. They mentioned to me that it will still count as a return against the number that they look at. So if 5% is considered a very high return for a particular category, and I exceed that threshold, they're not going to take off these returns that a customer may open and not follow through with. Again, I explained that didn't make sense, because if I get a return request, customer says, the item's not working, I contact the customer and work it out and help them to figure out how to work the item they bought from me. How should that be counted against my return percentage if I was successful in helping that customer and avoiding an actual return? And their answer was, well, you are compared to other peers who are selling in the same category, and it's expected that those sellers that you're competing against, per se, are going to experience the same kind of buyers who are going to open returns, never return the item, or simply change their mind and not cancel. And in their mind, that's already built into that equation. I got to tell you, if I'm being proactive as a seller, and let's say my competition, they're not, and I'm resolving this to where the customer doesn't need to return the item, and eBay is going to be able to keep their final value fees as a result, wouldn't eBay reward, or at least allow us to dispute those returns so it's not counted against us? Currently, their mindset is a very shallow mindset, and maybe it's creating too much work for them to create a policy that would allow sellers to dispute those sort of returns. I don't know what it is, but it's just it's sad. And I know that somebody put something in the comments stating that from a previous video, stating that that doesn't count against you if the customer allows the return to time out, or if the return is canceled by the customer. It doesn't count. It doesn't count as a case that is closed by eBay in the buyer's favor. The case is closed by the customer or by eBay if the case times out. It is counted against you, however, as towards your return percentage. And if you allow that to get to the very high plateau, which is usually, I think, about 5%, but every category is different, it will cost you an additional 5% in final value fees if you are found to have a very high return rate. So what do we do, and what can we do as sellers to avoid that situation? The real question is, what can I do to get my customer to contact me directly rather than hastily opening a return, and by then it's just really too late. It's going to be counted against me. And it got me to thinking, I'm going to start putting a thank you note with every item that I sell, with my store logo, explaining to them, first and foremost, thank you for buying my item. If you encounter any issues with this item, please contact me directly before you open a return, because chances are I can help resolve the situation where it may not even require a return. By doing that, I'm hopeful that it will plant that seed in the customer's mind that if I just got through reading this little note that you attach to the product, if there is an issue, I won't jump the gun and open a return. And I'll go ahead and put a sample of what that note would look like if any of you want to sort of copy that, or maybe create a similar note of your own. Of course, you'd want to insert your own store name there, and of course I don't have my watermark for one of the stores that I'm trying this on. But you guys will get the gist of it, and you're more than welcome to use the verbiage if you wanted to do something like that on your own. But the hope is that it will allow me to get a jump on my competition who may not be putting a note in with their packages, and allowing your customer and communicating with your customer exactly what to do in case there's a return. And you know, if you think about it, you might be dealing with some new buyers who may not have but a few feedback or any at all. And by including a note with your item, it will give them some direction on how they should proceed should there be any issue. And that, in my hope, and hopefully it's successful, will lower the number of returns I'm seeing. Naturally, with the type of items I'm selling customer return items that we do test, but we don't test them thoroughly enough in some cases, and sometimes we do encounter some issues and we do take returns. And for that reason, our return rate can be a little bit higher when you're dealing with that type of merchandise. So yeah, hopefully this will give you all some ideas, maybe some clarification with the whole item specifics fiasco, and also if you're dealing with returns, maybe give you something to try to knock that number down. So you know, every return you deal with is a return label you have to pay for, and ultimately you have to go through dealing with relisting that item, and it's just not worth it, especially if that customer would have benefited from just simple communication back and forth on how to make that item work for them. So that's all I have for today. I want to thank you for taking time to watch this video, and please take time to leave your remarks down below. I take time to read as many of them as I can and respond to as many as I can, and I certainly appreciate that. If you guys would take the time to leave any comments or remarks that you might be thinking. And look for another video here in the next few days. And until then, you know, keep making those listings, keep making those sales, and knock it out the park. I hope you guys have a great week.